Wow.
I don't know what that was.
That was Rick Stojak, man. We went from 4 bars to 32.
We went crazy.
That was awesome. Very cool. It's
Yeah.
good to see you guys. Here we are on deck, Drummers Education Connection. We are here every Tuesday from 11 to 12 Pacific Standard Time. And man, we're up, we're going. Today we're talking about cooperative thinking. We are back with our friend Rick Stojak, who is in down in Florida, seeing his mom and at a wedding and all this great stuff. And then Chip Ritter, our friend Jeremy, is out today. He is probably someplace thinking cooperatively with somebody. So that's our episode today, cooperative thinking. And so, but we're going to start with our normal thing. And that is good things. And good things is just that, man. We got so much going on that is fantastic all over the place. And we just like to carry some of that stuff forward here. And so we're going to, since Rick's been gone, let's pick it over to Rick. What do you got going on that's good, buddy?
Man, well, it's great to be back on the show with you guys. And one good thing was how awesome the past 2 shows were that you guys did. And big thanks and shout out to Fred Fisher for coming on the show and doing a great job. And we can't wait to have you back again, Fred. And my good thing was my nephew got married, and it was in Florida, so we had kind of like a family reunion wedding kind of vibe down in Florida. And my mom did great at it. She's going to be 99 in October, and she's rocking and sharp as ever. And I got to give my 19-month-old great niece a drum lesson. So she picked up sticks for the first time, and she really liked it.
That's so cool.
Like drums. So yeah, it was great. And I got a little unwind, a little resting of the ears. And it's nice to get a getaway and recharge every once in a while.
Yeah, it is, man. It's always nice to kind of get away from stuff. Chip, what do you got going on that's good, bro?
Man, I got a new car. I got a 2017 Corvette Stingray, and I love every minute of it, man. I'm just loving it.
Dude, that is so cool. That is so cool.
Yeah, it's super fast.
I'm sure it is, man. I'm sure it is. I can't wait till the next time I come to Tucson to do a gig, and you're going to come give me a ride in it.
Absolutely, man. So about you, Bart, what's going on new with you?
You know, man, I've got so much going on that is fantastic. And 2 things. First of all, a deck thing. So I started doing deck shorts. Rick came up with that name when we very first started doing Drummers Education Connection. We had talked for a long time about doing little short videos of deck. And so rather than keep on talking about it, I thought, well, let's do it. So we're calling them deck shorts. Get it? Deck shorts, you know? Like, there we go. That's okay. So deck shorts. So those are up and they're doing great, and cutting up some of the videos, and that's going really well. And so I'm excited about that. But then the second thing I'm excited about is right here last week, my newest book, the printed version is out, and it is doing really good. So I'm going to say it here. So anybody that's watching that has ordered the book, I ran a special on my website. I ran 2 specials on my website. One of them was, if you bought the new book, you got my ASAP Rudiments Plus page with it. And I sold so many of them that I ran out of those. So if you received this book and you bought it and you did a pre-order and you didn't get the Rudiments Plus, the SAP Rudiments Plus, I will be sending it out. They are on back order from Hal Leonard, which is a good thing. That means they're selling. So I'm excited about that. But today, what time is it? Quick, somebody, what time is it?
11:09.
Okay. If an email comes in from between 11:09 and 12 o'clock, I'm running a deck only special right now.
A deck only special.
This is a deck special. This is a special deck. If you go to bartrobley.com right now, and you place an order for this book right here, you can buy both of these books. Okay. If you send me an email right now, you can buy both of these books for $40. Okay. Both of them for $40. So
only $40
only
on
$40.
bartrobley.com.
Right. And actually, the way I'm going to do this is you can go to my website and buy it, or if you send me an email to bartdrum@yahoo.com between 11:09 and 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time today, you will get both books for $40. You can pay me with PayPal, Venmo, whatever you want. But that's my deck special. So that's my good thing. I'm really excited about that. The book's doing great. And it's getting great reviews and people are digging it. And I'm really excited about that. So that's my good thing. Hey, so today we're talking about cooperative thinking and what cooperative thinking is, how it works for everybody in the world, but how it's worked for us on deck. I think how it works. And that's one of the things this whole book of mine, Drum Up Your Business, is just that. It's how to make your business grow, drumming up your business. And the acronym: determination, relationships, understanding, and mentorship. Okay. It's what business is about. It's all about cooperative thinking. It's about how to make you be the best version of you that you can be. Right. And I think that's what we need to do in life. Right. So cooperative thinking, it can go back to the first grade, play nice with the other kids in the playground. It can, you don't want to be the kid that gets the little check on his report card that says does not work well with others. Check. You don't want to be that kid, you want to be the kind of person that works well with others and makes things happen. Right. So we're going to start there. And so I want to throw it. Usually I'll throw it over to San Diego. I'm going to long bomb this one out to Tucson, out to Chip. Chip, it's coming at you, brother. Catch that ball. What do you think of when you think cooperative thinking? What's the first thing that kind of comes to mind, bro?
Well, the first thing that came to mind was the episode live on deck, Cooperative Thinking, that I heard about a couple days back, that this was going to be an episode. And then the second thing I think about cooperative thinking means to me that I'm putting my idea out to a few different people and getting their feedback on it and helping me access the years and years of experience and life experience those people each have, to have that come to bear against my problem and or scenario that I'm trying to think about.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
That's what it means to me. I don't know much more about it. In fact, I'm excited to be involved with this show to find out what cooperative thinking is. I'm still wondering what it could be.
Right on. Rick, what do you think of when you think cooperative thinking?
Well, this was inspired by I was out last week and you guys did a great show on next level thinking. And I was thinking, man, I really would love to be on that show because I just think it's so important how we react to the world and how we react and we respond to people. That's what's going to bring you happiness and likely get you further in your career. It's all of these attitudes that we have and responses to life that really matter. And when you guys did the next level thinking, I started making a couple notes of things that I thought I could contribute. And I thought, well, maybe we'll call it next level thinking. Thought that'd be kind of funny. And then I was looking at my notes and I said, all of this stuff is cooperative thinking rather than competitive. So I was feeling there's a big contrast between cooperating and being competitive with people in general. And I could list a million things in the drumming community that you could think about that's cooperative, that is going to benefit you and the drumming community and the music community at large. But it's kind of like, have you guys ever noticed whatever you put out, something that's really what you're going to get back?
Very much so.
So a great example of cooperative thinking is we're on show 216. That's a lot of topics. We're all busy people. We're professional drummers. How do we ever find time? How do we come up with topics for this? Well, we generally send each other out a bunch of ideas and on a text thread. And that's how this happened. And when you just see a title, you don't know exactly, well, what is that person thinking about? So Chip had some great titles for today as well. And then I threw out cooperative thinking, and we're like, Bart, just pick one because you're making the artwork. And you just made the artwork and said, let's do cooperative thinking. And I'm like curious about Chip's idea for the next show. But basically what it is we don't have this ego to bruise about things and the way it goes. And so I felt like Chip was like a great example of, I don't know what you guys are thinking of cooperative thinking, but let's do it. And I want to be on the show. And I'm excited about about Chip's idea. I think yours like best practices. Was that the idea that you had? Yeah, that's why I called Chip yesterday. Like, hey Chip, let's talk about best practices because I want to know what you're thinking of for best practices, because that sounds like a cool show. See, so what it comes down to is not being super, super competitive. And I was thinking about an example about how I would approach things. Okay. Let's say that there was a gig audition happening for a major band, and all four guys in deck, and say Fred Fisher and Jim Royal, all of them would love to be in that band. Now, for me, the best way that I would approach that is I would tell you guys about that audition. I wouldn't just go, I'm not going to tell Bart about that audition. He's likely going to get that gig over me. I'm like, Bart, hey, check it out. Chip, check it out. There's an audition in Hollywood, at SIR Studios, open call Thursday at noon, tell it's helping one another out. Chances are good that one of the people that you told about that might give you a lead. Oh yeah, well I heard that this is what they're looking for. I heard through the grapevine. So you know what? So we're going in kind of like as a team, and to me that's a super cooperative way to go. Or I'm sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, but
no, you're great.
I think this is just an exciting approach to life. It's we've heard, how many times did Dom Famulero say somebody wanted double bass drum lessons? And he's like, well, I could teach you double bass, obviously, Dom's a killer double bass player, right? But he said, but I'm going to give you the number of another guy. It might have been Joe Franco or I can't
Bobby
remember.
Rondinelli.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to give you Bobby's number, and you could study with him. And then, if you want to come back and study with me on this or that, like if somebody wanted to go deep jazz studying with me, I would take them to a point, and then I would send them off to Jeremy Steinkohler, that kind of thing. So, so it's an approach to life where we're just not always feeling that everyone is competition, and just teamwork and work well with each other. And that's what deck is. We're all evolving our careers with this. We're getting exposure, we're learning, and then what are we doing? We're including people in. There's a comment, and anybody can comment on the show. I mean, it's not like we invented the comment thing, but it's definitely an open.
I invented the comment thing.
It's an open format for us all to grow and learn. And then go figure, the people who make a lot of comments end up being on the show eventually. Rather than, hey, I'm a great drummer, you don't know me, I'm in a local town, and I want to be on the deck show. Well, is that cooperative to the show rather than then Fred. We'll have James Harrison. We've talked. We want to have James on down the road, James Harrison, because James always commenting and making really, really insightful comments. So, what were you going to say, Bart?
Oh no, I think you're nailing it. I think that Chip and I were talking about this. I think it was yesterday. Him and I were chatting. I know in the last 6 years of my life, let's say 6, 7 years of my life, I've really made a conscious effort to really try to understand where other people are coming from and know that it's not all about me and my ideas. And not to be like a snapdragon with certain things. And I think that sometimes it's easy to be, well, what the hell did you mean by that? You know, we all do it. We all get bruised sometimes. And I think that Deck was born out of, Chip called me up again. I've told the story 100 times. I'm out on a walk during COVID. I don't know what I want to do, but I want to do something. And we all came together and we collaborated on this thing. And the initial thing was, we want to help drummers and we want to help drum teachers. And I think that's a very cooperative way to look at things. Right. And when I said not be a snapdragon, what I meant by that was it's easy to say no to something. It's easy to be what I call, and I have a whole section in my new book called "Don't Be a Yeah Butter." And what I mean by that is, if I were to say to Chip, "Hey Chip, I think we should do an episode on Deck about red guitars," and you go, "Yeah, but." There's always a yeah, but there's always, and you talk yourself out of doing something. Now, we're a drum show. We probably won't do a show on red guitars, but if we were to do one, we could turn it into something. I think just thinking cooperatively, we could call it thinking open-minded, but not being easily steamrolled, I think, mentally, because it's really easy, like you said, Rick, like with your audition scenario,
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy to steamroll ourselves into, well, if Rick comes up and does the audition, there's no way I'm going to get the gig. If it's a double bass audition and Chip comes out, there's no way I'm going to get the gig. It's really easy to smash our brains down rather than, hey, Chip, I got to do this audition on double bass. Why don't you come audition too, and maybe give me some pointers on how I should play this?
Yeah.
I think that's what cooperative thinking kind of means to me.
Another good example of cooperative thinking, I would say, is a brainstorming session. When you have a group of people and you're presented with a question of how do we do X, when everybody else starts spitting in ideas and they all kind of jump in and are involved in thinking at the same time about the same goal, and they're all trying to get to the same place and offering different ideas and perspectives. I think that's another good example of cooperative thinking.
That's right. You know what? They call it a think tank.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I would rather also, and for young musicians out there or anybody listening, I've always said this when I'm in a band. I've said it here on Deck, like in our brainstorming sessions where we're like, okay, where do we take Deck next? I'd rather throw 100 ideas out there that are just the dumbest thing in the world. Like, let's do an episode on red guitars. Well, why would we do that? We're on Deck. Just throw 100 ideas out there that are just stupid and have every one of them shot down. Because if I throw 100 out and they're all stupid, one of them might be great.
Yeah.
And the one that's great might be the one that hits it out of the park for whatever, It might be a great episode. It could be a small thing like that. It's a great episode, or it could be the next thing that makes Rick sell 1 million books and makes Snare Force One go number one on the New York Sellers bestsellers list. I mean, um, I so throwing ideas out there and being open-minded enough to hear those ideas and do them, I think is cooperative thinking.
That's
Brian
right.
Brian Tracy does a good exercise. He has a good thing about setting goals and asking yourself what would need to happen for this to be true. And he goes off 7 and 7 is 49. So 7, you write down 7 of your best ideas of how to make that goal come true. And then you take each of those 7 ideas and each of them get their own piece of paper and you write down 7 ideas about how you can make that thing come true. And you end up with like some wrong answers, but invariably there's going to be 2 or 3 great ideas out of those 49 suggestions that you give yourself. So I totally agree with what you're saying, Bart. I'm on the Bart train.
Okay, so
Sorry.
there's a BART train and there's Snare Force One.
There it is.
I think we got a thing going here, right?
Yeah.
I want to say this too. I'm gonna circle back around to this. Again, what I said a minute ago, being open-minded enough to hear somebody else's ideas sometimes involves, especially for young musicians out there, young drummers who're just starting out, it really involves putting the ego aside. And it's really easy for somebody to go, hey man, the saying, check your ego at the door. It's really easy to say that. It's really hard to do that. I was because there's a lot of good ideas that get shot down because of whatever you want to call it. Like I said a second ago, a yeah butter, or you're a snapdragon, you just shoot somebody's idea down just because it's their idea. Sometimes you'll disagree with somebody just because it's that person. And I don't, you don't want to be involved with people like that. You don't want to work with people like that,
Yeah.
And I would venture to say that in the history of Deck, how many episodes did you say, Rick?
This is 216.
Okay, out of 216 episodes, I've thrown a lot of really stupid ideas out there in the last 5 years where Rick and Jeremy and Chip kind of go, what? Shut up. And I'm like, okay, I tried. But the ones that do stick, again, they work, right? I don't think there's ever been a like, well, we're not going to do this episode because Bart thought of it or Rick thought of it. We all are in this think tank.
Yeah.
And we all want to, whatever Deck is, whatever this is that we do, whether it's helping fellow drum teachers, fellow drummers, young students, just your average person that stumbles across it on YouTube and watches an episode, we truly want to help the people that are watching our episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, I always say this to all of my drum students. I'm not a nonprofit. I gladly take my paycheck for my drum lessons, for gigs, for recording session. If you buy one of my books, I gladly take that. But at the end of the day, I really do want to help my fellow drummers and my fellow musician friends. And I think that's what Deck is all about. Again, cooperative thinking.
Yeah. When you have something that's working, like some kind of alignment or like a relationship or a band or a show, there's an alignment and there's a cooperation that we all bring to the table. Or like, let's just say like a successful TV show. And really what that always involves behind the scenes is people bending and people willing to take direction, to take sometimes criticism or at least just, hey, did you think about it? So it's how you deliver everything to people too, and I think the soft delivery is always really, really, really helpful. Take the ego out of it. But what's the one thing that's gonna kill the relationship, kill the band, kill the TV show. It's somebody's ego and someone not being cooperative.
Yep.
As in, I'm the singer, I'm going solo.
It's always the singer.
It's always the singer.
Always the singer, right? You know, and has it worked? Sure, it's worked for some, of course. Yep. And but a lot of times, no. It's someone tries to go off and branch out on their own, and so there's power in unity, and I think understanding is really the thing to keep in mind, that, you know, put yourself in the other person's shoes, try to understand where they're going from, or where they're coming from. I remember, you know, with my brother, my late brother, when he produced our band, you know, it was his band, B Wild. Robert B Wild is my brother's name. You know, it was his band and his brainchild, and he was trying to work with on song parts, and he would forever say, okay, to the keyboard player, can you play, you know, ding, 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 ding. Just something simple like that. And then the bass player, well, you just play boom, 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 boom. And they would fight him like crazy because they could play something way more fancy, way more exciting for them individually, you know? And then he would have to argue with them and say, well, you just put it together, just do that. Right. And then he would throw a guitar chord over it, and it was like the gates of heaven opened when you heard it, when you heard that space.
Oh.
That whole concept, Bart, you talk a lot about this, you know, like that less is more.
Yeah.
So you come in cluttering up every conversation, or you come in cluttering up every drum part, you know, filling it in. That's not cooperative to the music or the environment. You know,
I've talked about this again on the show a lot. I've done a clinic on it at Deck Day once.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity a number of years ago to do a lot of re-record for sync licensing with producer Michael Blum. Now, if you don't know who Michael Vale Blum, anybody who wants to look him up, he did all the Suicidal Tendencies records. He did Madonna's Like a Prayer. He's done like unbelievable amount of work. And the guy is a phenomenal producer. And we had to go in and do all these re-records of he had a record label called Titan Tribute Media. And what he was doing is, when tribute bands were new, he was signing them to the label to re-record the music for sync licensing, to sell physical product at the band's gigs, all this stuff. And he signed us to his record label. And we had to go in and re-record all of the material from Bob Seger's catalog, note perfect.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like it had to be kind of close, and it had to be note perfect. So much so that I transcribed every song, went in, recut all of those songs just by myself to the click, no but other musicians, so I could nail the parts. Other people come in, play their parts on top of it.
Mhm.
What's my point with this? To talk about myself? No, to talk about my experience right here. There was a number of bands that he wanted to work with, but the musicians would come in and they would say, well, you know, that part on that particular song is just what you were saying, Rick. It's kind of boring. You know, if I would have been the guy that played the part on that song, I would have done this and maybe done one of these and a fill here and one of those here. And Michael would just scratch his head and he would say, so you're telling me you're such a great musician that if you would have graced the Rolling Stones instead of this musician that was in the Rolling Stones, that you would have come up with a better part for the hit song. That's what you're saying. And that is such an egotistical way of thinking. And let's go back to Rick's thing. Let's say that you name the band, fill in the blank. Your favorite band is holding auditions and you're going to go audition for that drum part. Okay. And you go sit down and your attitude is, well, I'm going to play the drum parts better because I'm a better drummer than fill in the blank of drummer X that played the part. number one. And number two, this song is a hit song and the fans are expecting to hear this drum part, but I'm going to dazzle the fans with my new drum part. The thinking of, well, who knows what they want to hear in an audition, that's insulting, because the song was a hit for a reason.
Right.
Your cooperative thinking needs to be, I'm going to learn this part as close as possible to the record. And if I get the gig and then they say, hey, you can do whatever you want, make the parts your own, then you can do that.
Yeah.
Cooperative thinking is being the best player for the job, or the best teacher for the student, or, again, fill in the blank. But that's what cooperative thinking is there.
That is it. I one time had, I'm sorry, Chip.
Go ahead, Chip.
I was just going to say, cooperative thinking to me means like teamwork and thinking of others as the group's goal. That's all.
Yeah.
That's it. One time I had, it was really, really fun for me. I had a studio session with Barnyard Ballers. We were working on, I think, the third album, Punkabilly Invasion, it was called. And
I love that.
And I did my part, this song called Dangerous Man. And Spike, the singer, said, Ricky, man, because everyone called me Ricky. He said, Ricky, that was great. That was great. But how about we do another take? Why don't you just go crazy, man? Just go off. Let's get that energy of let's just go wild, He said, you're really good at that. I think that would be really fun for this song. So I'm like, oh, yeah. So I threw in all kinds of double bass and crashes and little roughs on the feet. And that was the take they liked. And so,
nice.
So that was a nice moment.
Go, Ricky.
Yeah.
Go, Ricky.
So, yeah.
We always hear, a minute ago, Rick, you said something that kind of made my ears perk up when you said, the band sometimes, a band will break up, or a TV show will fall apart because of somebody's ego, right? Gets in the way, and they're not thinking for the career, they're not thinking cooperatively, right? And whenever you hear the we were joking that, it's always the singer. That brought two things to mind. Number one, to young musicians out there, when they get the you hear a band, their favorite band, that broke up. Oh, his musical differences. This guy wanted to go that way, and that guy wanted to go this way. That's not why the band broke up. The band didn't break up because of musical differences. The band broke up because, one of the guys in the band goes into the bathroom in the tour bus and leaves his whiskers everywhere and doesn't clean up after himself so many times that the bass player wants to kill that person and the drummer wants it. Those are the things that break up bands. It's just living with people. It's not musical differences. Those are the things that end up breaking up bands and breaking up shows and collaborations. It's putting up with the other person, and so again, cooperative thinking. Okay, this guy's kind of a slob. I just need to either say something about it, like you said, Rick, in a soft way, or you just need to learn to live with it. Right. And you said another thing too. We were joking about singers and saying, well, singers are always one that break up the band. I saw an interview one time with I forget who the manager was, but it was a music business manager. And he was talking about how, there are bands that, hey, I'm going to go and I'm going to do my solo tour, right? Mm-hmm. And he used all of these scenarios and all of these big stars, right? And he talked specifically about a lot of people, but the one that really stuck out in my mind was Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora. That feud is legendary, between those guys. And he goes, Bon Jovi was smart enough to realize that he could take his band Bon Jovi and go out on tour and sell out stadiums, not just, arenas around the world, and a stadium at Giant Stadium for 2-3 nights in a row, and make all this money if he just put his ego aside. He was smart enough to figure that out. But if he went out on his own, he'd be lucky to sell out the House of Blues across the country, right?
Yeah.
And that's, again, I think that's a good example of him realizing that, hey, yeah, the name of the band is Bon Jovi, but I need to get along with the other guys in the band.
Mhm.
So I think that
Mhm.
anybody out there, if you're in a band, or you want to get in a band and you want to be in a group, and you want to start a podcast with three other drummers, and cooperative thinking, just okay, my ideas are not always going to be heard. They might be shot down, but that's okay. The ones that I do get in there that stick, those will be the ones that work for me.
There
you know,
is.
yeah.
I'd like to share a little tip on what I was thinking would potentially help in getting better at cooperative thinking. And I might ask myself, am I being competitive right now? What's my motivation for my response or my comments? Is it really, am I trying to push my way, um, and am I working for the team, or am I working for myself? And there's a great author, he's kind of like one of our family gurus. Michael Singer is his name. He has a book called The Untethered Soul, and he's got a great podcast, and he talks a lot about this stuff. And he talks about the low hanging fruit, like the little things that you can do to kind of tangible things that can help you grow and evolve. And it's about complaining. If we stop, catch ourselves, so we're not complaining about whatever it is, not complaining about the heat, or not complaining that there aren't towels in the dressing room, or what about traffic. I had a girl, like, driving the other day, and she was like, all mad at me because I didn't let her pull in front of me, but I had the right of way. And if I had let her pull in front of me, that actually would have been dangerous driving, right? And I totally had the right of way. She had to stop. I didn't. And so I had to let that go, and say, well, that's fine. But it's trying to stop complaining about all of the little things. And I think that can kind of calm you down, take a second, breathe, all that kind of stuff, reset yourself all the time. And these little things add up, and they'll do wonders, is my thought. Yep.
Chip, you have written an amazing book, Snare Force One.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. In your book, Snare Force One, there's you wrote that on your own, but there's some great cartoons in there. There's some really cool things in there that are very fun and very ingenious.
Yeah.
Who did the cartoons for you, and what kind of cooperative thinking did you have to do to get the Snare Force One put together so that it would be the masterpiece that it is?
Well, I talked to band directors, and I talked to younger drum students of mine that were in the age of where you go into high school around 13 or 14, where you become a freshman, and talked to them about what it felt like to be presented with having to read music notation and the process of learning notes, rests, and all that. I talked to the band directors about what they felt was most important, and I always ask the question, what's the top 3 things you would recommend for a student to know before they come in to audition for the band program? And I got that, and I took that and did a brainstorming session with Scott Johnson from the Blue Devils, and Todd Carrasco, who did the notation, and Andrew Starbuck, who did the illustrations. I sat there with Andrew, and we just spitballed ideas of, wow, the hybrid rudiment could be a dragon called Hybrido that we're scared of, that we haven't played yet, and all these different Hybrido. And then the rudiments would be like these mints that in a rolled up thing. And when you take a you take one of the rudiments and you chop it into 4 pieces, and those are quarter notes. And then you go into 8 pieces, and those are eighth notes, and then 16, which would be 16th notes, and describing that in a visual sense with the cartoons and the illustrations. That it was just a process of asking questions, really, asking questions and listening to the answers and trying to put myself out of myself and listen to what their side of it was, so I could end up having the most comprehensive version of Snare Force One that I could. And I think we did good, man. I'm very happy with that book. I'm very happy with the results.
I that's brilliant, and the fact that, again, you brainstormed, you thought about it, and you set I mean, it's your book, but there still had to be a point where you set your ego aside and ask people for their opinions and their input.
Yeah, setting my ego aside was important for me when I came up to traditional grip. I thought, I don't play traditional grip. I played it in marching band in high school. And most marching bands nowadays, the trend is to play traditional on the marching snare.
Right.
So I felt that it would be very important to have that in the DVD. And I thought to myself, who would be the best in the world to teach traditional grip on marching snare drum? And I thought of Scott Johnson, the Blue Devils drum instructor, who's 13-time world champion. You know what I mean? He's just like the best of the best. And my friend, I was talking to a couple buddies of mine, and both of them were like, yeah, good luck, dude. You know what I mean? Good luck getting Scott. That's like getting Elvis to do something. It's like he's the Elvis of the drum corps world. And then on one night, I just waved the magic wand, and I was like, you know what? What would it take to get Scott Johnson? Well, I could probably give him a call if I could find his number. Good luck doing that. Well, does he have a website? And I looked up and I Googled him and I found his website, and then it had an email thing so I could email him. And so I sat there and I wrote the best email I could, talking about how this is going to change drumming for kids and get more drumsticks in more hands. And would you be willing to, to help me by making a video on traditional grip? And he came back with it. He was like, absolutely, Chip, it'd be an honor. You know what I mean? It was like that. Boom. And then I had the best traditional lesson that I could have hoped for. It's great.
Unbelievable. And see, there again, thinking outside of the box, cooperative thinking, however we want to think about it, next level thinking. But, to me, that is a perfect example, not only to how to be a cooperative thinker and a team player, but we're talking to musicians and we're talking about being in a band and this and that, but a lot of the people we're out there talking to that are watching this want to be authors, or they are authors, and maybe they're on their second, third, fourth book. And just because you're on your second, third, fourth book doesn't mean that you can't make it better, right? And so again, that pushing yourself and leveling yourself up. We did a show on that called Level It Up. But I think that is great advice to everybody, Chip. That's really.
I think it's also important to be careful about who you're trying to cooperatively think with. The people that you pick should be the same mindset. They should be of the same mindset, because I've done things before when I had a great idea for a book and I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this. What do you think? And I've had people go, I don't know if I'd do that. You can't, like Stick Tricks DVD, and the guy's sitting there telling me at NAMM at the booth, he's telling me, you can't do a video like that. It's all ice cream. You need to have steaks and potatoes. You can't just do stick tricks on a video. And I kept thinking to myself, wow, I was super discouraged when I got done talking to that guy. It's like, you know what? Not everybody shares your dream, your vision. And to find people that are supportive of what the overall goal is really critical when it comes to cooperative thinking, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think what I was saying a minute ago, what you just described there, Chip, that guy's the perfect example of a butter. You could do a DVD on Stick Tricks, and then he'll fill in the blank of why he shouldn't do it. I've been in changing the trajectory of the conversation here a little bit. I've been playing for Sam for 25 years. I've been in that band for 25 years. And Rolling Stone years ago did a thing on how most bands last 11 months. And I've been in the group for 25 years. And for good, bad, or indifferent, we've been there for each other, right? And the people that have stepped away from the band because of their ego, or they just, you know what, when I look back on the history of the people that have come and gone out of the band, it's always been, it was always an ego thing that made them step away and leave. They were tired of playing this music. They're tired of playing that. They want to do their own music. And okay, go for it. And not being a team player, right? It just isn't. And one of the things that I'm so proud of now with the group, we travel with our own in-ear monitor system. I mean, it's a thing. I mean, there's this one rack that we carry around with our in-ears there's $60,000 worth of gear in there to make this thing work. Mm-hmm. We carry a full Hammond organ and a Leslie cabinet, so a B3 and a Leslie, and I think there's like 4 keyboards on the side of the stage, full drum set, amplifiers, guitars. There's crap everywhere. Yep. Our trailer is full. You never know what you're going to load into. I mean, there's a lot of times we go back to the gig and we're like, okay, we've been here, we know exactly what we're going to deal with. But there's a lot of times you pull into a new place and there's a flight of stairs, or the stage is above your head. It's real tall and there's no stair. How the hell are we going to get this stuff up there? There's not one time that we're not all helping each other. Cooperative thinking, get this stuff on the stage, get the show to happen.
Right.
We're loaded on and ready to sound check within an hour and a half every time. Right. Every single time, Right. And if we just stand there and fight each other, get out of my way, I'm trying to get this up there. Why can't you help me with my, no. It's a team, cooperative thinking. We work together.
That's right. Right. Like how many times I've done a million shows where there's shared backline for drum kits, 4 bands playing, all sharing one drum kit.
Yep.
So you've got to, like we do on deck day, right? Every time we do a deck clinic, we're all sharing one drum kit. And so that means moving equipment off, like specific cymbals and setups. So it's like getting gear on and off right away. Don't finish up your set and then just start chatting with someone while the next drummer is waiting for you to move the gear. You're holding up the show. So
unless she's really hot.
Chip, when Snare Force 1 is an amazing book, man. It's got so much thought and creativity to it, and it makes sense to me that you included people and you drew from your resources to make it happen. That's how I try to do everything. And a great example of that is before we even started Deck, Chip and I were buddies, right? We became friends that we met at Aquarian, at the NAMM show at the Aquarian Drumhead booth, and we became instant friends. And I gave Chip my book, thought, well, here it is. This might be something that helps out your students. You might enjoy. And Chip used the book. He started using it, for the right students. That was a good fit. But then one day Chip called me and said, Rick, the cover's a little busy. I'm not sure if the logo makes sense. And it was just so great because Chip came with just sincerity and you get so close to something. This is what happens. Yeah. We get so close to a thought or an idea that we can't let it go, and we've got to be right. And so I was so, at first I went, oh, who is this Chip telling me what to do? That was just lasted for 1 second, and then I'm like, I better listen to this damn guy, man, because this guy knows his thing, and he's coming at me sincere, not with an ego. And sure enough, I said, you know what, Chip, I think maybe I'm going to redesign the cover and I'm going to redesign the logo. And then, so what did I do? I found a designer and put that designer through hell because we went through a million different logos. And what I'd have like 10 logos, and every student who came in, I would include them in the decision.
That's cooperative thinking.
That's cooperative thinking. What logo do you like better, A or B? and they'd pick B. Like, okay, B or C. It was like the eye test, and and that, like this cover and this whole concept, the Rick Stojak logo, that that's all because of Chip Ritter. So thank you, Chip. That
Well,
was
good stuff, man. That's the other thing about DEC is what DEC started, and the dream for DEC was to be a cooperative think tank for improving our drum business, our teaching, our careers, our student roster, our all of it. You know what I mean? And so that's really what has been happening. That's what's continued to happen for me. Every time we do an episode, I'm learning stuff. I'm writing stuff down, man.
Every time. Yep.
There's
the thoughts.
Go ahead.
I take the thoughts because I go right into lessons after this. I'm pretty sure you guys do too, and the thoughts and the things that you guys have said, I bring those into all of the drum lessons, and they're getting a fresh drum set. They're getting some or a fresh concept. I mean, and I'm excited about it, and they usually it makes it more interesting because they never know what they're going to get with their lesson. They might be getting a concept, just a paradiddle.
One of the things that Fred just said, iron sharpens iron, and he actually read my mind through the internet, because I was just going to say, man sharpens man like steel sharpens steel. That's a Bible proverb, and it's so true, because every time I'm part of the show, and I walk away going, oh man, I never ever would have thought of that. I would not have thought of that had I not talked to Rick, or had I not talked to Fred, or had I not talked to Chip. I've learned a lot from the show, and I think that understanding that you don't know everything, right? That you don't know everything is important to remember. And it's my great grandfather used to say, if you wake up and you don't learn something new every day, it's not worth getting out of bed. And he told me that when he was 80 years old, And so, yeah, I think that's very important. What did James Harrison say, Chip?
He said, when teaching kids, I've always tried to be encouraging and positive. When I was teaching college level drum set or drum line, I had a different mindset. I didn't sugarcoat anything and told them, don't ask me for my opinion if you don't want the truth. I'm not sure if that makes me a yeah, but person, but I was always trying to prepare them for musical reality of moving into the real world auditions and preparation. And that's
no, James, that doesn't make you a yeah, but person. That makes you a kick you in the butt person. And I love that.
Yeah, I think that's good, James. There's people in my life that cared more about my feelings than the quality of my life. And I think I suffered because of that. And the people that cared more about my life than my feelings were the ones that really helped set me straight. So right on, James, keep it going, man. That's the good stuff to do. It's
well said.
Yeah.
I like that. Say that again, Chip. The people that cared about your life.
Well, a lot of people in my life that cared more about my emotions than they did the reality of the situation didn't really help me that much. It's the people that cared more about the quality of my life than my emotions or how I felt about something, that really helped me. And it's like a good friend of mine in a recovery program always says that, your feelings will heal. The truth is what matters. Yeah. You know what I mean? Getting to the truth. And that's what I think James is talking about, being truthful with them and being honest and preparing them for the real world,
Yeah. And yeah, totally. And James, I want to expand upon this. I think you're right. When you're teaching kids, I have a couple of special needs kids, as does Chip, and you have to go in soft, like Rick said. You can't go to a special needs kid and go, no, it's right, left, right, right. What's wrong with you? You have to come in kind of soft. But here's the yeah, but I'm being a yeah, butter now. So if you're a drumline coach for college level drummers who want to get into Blue Knights, Red Devils, you name the drumline, they want to do that. If they're not playing up to snuff, they're going to get steamrolled
Yeah, there's no way you're going to make an audition if you're not up to a certain standard in the drum corps world.
Totally. And hey, in the rock and roll world, in the jazz world, you think in the real world, you're going to get steamrolled, you know?
Yep.
And so I think having a drum teacher or a coach or a mentor that, like you said, James, I love that. Don't ask me if you don't want to know the truth. You know, if you're not playing up to par and you ask me, I'm going to tell you, especially if you're trying to play at that level. Because I don't think a soft delivery on that is going to do the trick, you know. So no, my opinion, I don't think you're a yeah butter. And I do think that's cooperative thinking, because you're cooperating with the student to try to make them better. Man sharpens man like steel sharpens steel. All right.
Is that yeah but thing an old Elvis?
No, it's
Abbott and Costello, not Elvis. Abbott and Costello. Hey, yeah, but
no, maybe it is. I don't know. I honestly, I came up with that because I worked with a guy in a band that this guy forever had the idea of what it meant to be successful. And I kind of started realizing that I was really listening to some of his advice a lot. And this guy was like one of the most unsuccessful people that I've ever known in my life. Like, he just couldn't get it together. Like, he just, in any way, shape, or form, it was just, you know, he couldn't pay his bills. He was this, he was that, blah, 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 you know, but he always had advice. And whenever you would give him advice, well, why don't we try this? Yeah, but that's because he didn't think of it. So that's where I came up with it. And I was like, every time I say to this guy, let's try this, he's going to say, yeah, but.
Yeah.
And then
is
I don't want to take advice from somebody that's less successul, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not being closed-minded. There's people that are less successful that have great advice. I'm not being closed-minded to that. I'm just saying that if everything you say has a yeah, but behind it, come on.
Yeah, well, a good person I look up to, a role model of mine, is often talking about opinions versus experience. And he's like, you know, I'm not concerned with your opinion. I am not concerned with my opinion. I'm more concerned with your experience of what you know. Yeah. Like James is talking about, what's the truth?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's cool, man. Cooperative thinking is something you can use to further yourself and to improve your life. And I love that topic. This has been a good show for me, guys. Thanks for teaching me.
Hey, thanks for the drum lesson too. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, so we're out of here. Next week on deck, I think maybe it'll be all four of us. I think Jeremy might be here.
Wow.
It could be we're putting the band back together, man.
That's it. That'll be beautiful.
That'll be awesome. Rick's hat rocks. Yes, it does.
Rock Fisher.
Red Rock Fisher. I have one of those hats too. I just polished my dome today. That's why I'm not wearing it. Come on, that was funny. You guys are supposed to laugh.
That was pretty good. I was laughing on the inside with you.
Awesome. Okay, so next week it is going to be all four of us. I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but we will have plenty to say, whatever it is that we're talking about.
Right. So, we'll definitely send a 4-way text out, and we'll all be cooperative in figuring out a topic.
Right. And you know what? I'm going to extend my offer. What time is it?
It's 12:03.
12:03. Okay, till 12:15. Send me an email to bartdrum@yahoo.com if you want to buy both of these books for $40. Okay, you want to buy both of them for $40. You send me an email to 12:15. What's today? 6:24. Oh, and by the way, the mess up on the date on the artwork, that's my fault. I put yesterday's date. Sorry, today's you know.
It's all good, Bart. And bartrobley.com is where you want to go. And if you're missing the special, you can still find a bunch of stuff out at bartrobley.com for everybody listening.
You can. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you next week. That's enough of us babbling. Rick, play the drums and shut me up.
All right. I've got a kick drum sound on a drum pad.